What if the exact second you grab that first cup in the morning is silently wrecking your body's ability to control glucose and nudging you toward a full-blown diabetic emergency? I'm not talking about what you put inside the cup. I'm talking about what the clock says when you take that first drink. I'm Dr. Matthew Brooks. For the last 20 years, I've worked as a cardiovascular surgeon. And throughout that time, I've treated thousands of people struggling through the reality of elevated blood sugar. And through that work, I uncovered something that completely changed the way I help people regain control over their glucose. The time you drink your coffee matters more than the coffee itself. Scientific studies published in peer-reviewed medical journals reveal something shocking. Drinking coffee during certain time windows can improve your body's insulin response by nearly 40% and cut the risk of developing advanced glucose disorders in half, especially in people over the age of 60. That level of improvement is comparable to what you'd expect from adding a prescription drug, except this costs nothing and comes with zero side effects. But drink that same coffee at the wrong time, and you trigger the exact opposite chain reaction. Your blood sugar shoots up, your cells stop responding properly to insulin, and the metabolic damage speeds up even faster. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to break down 3 critical mistakes almost everyone makes with coffee. I'll show you the exact timing system that naturally lowers glucose, and I'll explain how to figure out the precise amount of coffee your body personally needs. By the time we're done, you'll never look at your morning coffee ritual the same way again. But before we go deeper, I want to ask you something. Drop a comment below and tell me what country you're watching from right now. I'm genuinely curious how far around the world this message is traveling and who this is reaching. Whether you're watching from a crowded city or a quiet rural area, I want to know you're here. Let me start by explaining why this timing principle becomes so important, especially once you're past age 60. Your body runs on an internal rhythm, an invisible biological clock that determines how efficiently you process sugar at different points in the day. Earlier in the day, your system handles glucose extremely well, but as the day moves toward evening, that efficiency drops sharply. When you drink coffee at the wrong time, you're basically fighting against your body's natural current. You're forcing your body to flood your bloodstream with stress hormones at the exact time it should be calming down. But when you drink coffee in alignment with your circadian biology, something incredible happens. The natural compounds inside coffee actually help your body use insulin more efficiently and keep glucose stable all day long. Let me tell you a story that explains this perfectly. I worked with a man named Robert who was 71 when I met him. He had followed the exact same coffee routine for 40 years. Every morning, without exception, he would pour a large mug of black coffee and drink it before eating a single bite of food. He honestly believed he was doing something healthy. After all, he wasn't adding sugar or cream, just black coffee. Yet despite his good intentions, his diabetes kept getting worse year after year. His morning glucose readings were consistently between 180 and 200. His doctor was starting to seriously talk about insulin injections. Robert was absolutely terrified of that. And when I looked closely at his daily routine, the problem was obvious immediately. That morning coffee on an empty stomach was sending his blood sugar soaring by 30 to 40 points before he even touched breakfast. His body was releasing intense stress hormones that told his liver to dump stored sugar straight into his bloodstream. We made one simple change. Right after waking up, Robert would eat some protein, something like a hard-boiled egg or Greek yogurt. Then he waited 20 minutes. Only after that did he drink his coffee, and we added half a teaspoon of cinnamon. That one change flipped everything. Within just 2 weeks, Robert's morning glucose readings dropped to 140. Within 2 months, his long-term glucose marker, hemoglobin A1C, fell from 8.2 all the way down to 6.8%. Same coffee, same amount. The only difference was timing. His doctor could barely believe the lab results. Now let me explain the first critical mistake in detail, because this is exactly what Robert had been doing wrong for decades. Mistake number 1 is drinking coffee on a completely empty stomach right after waking up. Here's what happens biologically when you do this. The moment you wake up, your body naturally begins releasing stress hormones. This is completely normal, and it's part of your built-in wake-up system. But when you pour coffee into an empty stomach, you massively amplify that stress response, sometimes 10 times stronger than normal. Your stress hormones surge hard, and those elevated hormones send an urgent message to your liver, telling it to release stored sugar into your blood immediately. For someone whose glucose control is already impaired, this creates an instant blood sugar spike. Research has shown that coffee on an empty stomach can raise blood sugar by 25 to 45 points. You haven't eaten anything at all, yet your glucose is already far above healthy levels. The fix is extremely simple. Never let coffee be the first thing that hits your stomach. Always eat protein first. Aim for 15 to 20 grams. That can be an egg, Greek yogurt, a protein shake, or cottage cheese. Wait 15 to 20 minutes so that protein can start doing its job. Then, and only then, drink your coffee. That protein creates a stabilizing base for your blood sugar before caffeine enters your bloodstream. This one change can completely stop that dangerous morning surge. If you've been drinking coffee on an empty stomach, take a second right now and type the number 1 in the comments. I want to see how many of you have been making this mistake without realizing it. Now let's move to the second critical mistake, and this one surprises a lot of people. Mistake number 2 is drinking coffee after 2 hours in the afternoon. Most people think caffeine's only real problem is ruining sleep. That's definitely part of it, but the bigger danger is far worse. The real damage is how late caffeine destroys nighttime insulin sensitivity and wrecks your fasting glucose the next morning. Here's how it works. Caffeine has what researchers call a half-life of around 5 to 6 hours. That means if you drink coffee at 3 p.m., about 50% of that caffeine is still active in your system at 9 p.m., and that leftover caffeine keeps your cortisol elevated during the exact hours it should be falling. Cortisol is supposed to follow a specific daily curve. It peaks in the morning, then slowly declines all day, reaching its lowest point at night. That rhythm is essential for proper insulin sensitivity. When cortisol stays elevated in the evening, it directly disrupts how insulin works. Your cells become resistant to insulin. Your pancreas has to pump out more and more insulin just to get the same glucose-lowering effect. And most importantly, elevated nighttime cortisol disrupts the glucose regulation processes that should happen while you sleep. Let me tell you about Dorothy, who was 68 when I met her. She had a habit of drinking coffee 3 times per day, morning, midday, and 4 knocks in the afternoon. That afternoon cup was her favorite ritual. She would make it and enjoy it with a small snack while watching her favorite TV shows. Her fasting blood sugar every morning was consistently between 160 and 180. Even though she took metformin exactly as prescribed and tracked her diet carefully, she couldn't understand why her morning glucose stayed so high when she hadn't eaten overnight. The answer was that 4-hour coffee. The caffeine from that cup was still active at bedtime, keeping her cortisol artificially high and destroying her nighttime insulin sensitivity. Her liver was producing excess glucose all night long. We removed the 4-hour coffee. She could still have her morning cup and her midday cup, but nothing with caffeine after 2 p.m. Within 1 week, her fasting glucose dropped into the 130 to 140 range. Within 3 weeks, it averaged 110 to 120. Same diet, same medication. The only change was eliminating the afternoon coffee. This rule has to be absolute. No caffeine after 2 p.m. If you're serious about glucose control, nighttime insulin sensitivity is too valuable to sacrifice. Now, the third critical mistake sounds obvious, but I see it constantly. Mistake number 3 is adding sugar or artificial sweeteners to your coffee. Let me break these down separately because they harm your metabolism in different ways. Sugar is easy to understand. 1 teaspoon of sugar delivers 4 grams of pure glucose straight into your bloodstream. It spikes blood sugar instantly and completely wipes out any benefit coffee might have offered. Coffee naturally contains chlorogenic acid, which normally slows glucose absorption in your intestines. But once you add sugar, that protective compound can't compete with the direct glucose hit. It's like putting medicine and poison in the same cup and expecting the medicine to win. But here's what most people don't expect. Artificial sweeteners can be just as harmful, and possibly worse long-term. Aspartame, sucralose, saccharin. These chemical substitutes don't raise blood sugar immediately the way sugar does, but they do something far more dangerous. They change the makeup of the bacteria living in your gut. Research published in respected scientific journals shows artificial sweeteners alter gut bacteria in ways that steadily increase insulin resistance over time. They also trigger your pancreas to release insulin even when no glucose is present, which scrambles your body's metabolic signaling. Your pancreas essentially learns to respond to sweetness instead of real sugar. Over months and years, this creates insulin resistance that keeps compounding. Let me tell you about Margaret. She was 73 when we met, and she was proud of the fact that she'd removed sugar from her coffee years ago. Instead, she used 3 packets of artificial sweetener in every cup, and she drank 3 cups per day. She truly believed she was making a smart, health-conscious decision. Her hemoglobin A1C stayed stuck at 7.8% and refused to move, even though her diet was excellent in every other way. When I explained how artificial sweeteners destroy beneficial gut bacteria and increase insulin resistance, she didn't believe it at first. How could something with 0 calories affect blood sugar? But she trusted me enough to test it. For 1 month, she eliminated all sweeteners completely, only black coffee or coffee with a small splash of unsweetened cream. No sweeteners at all. 1 month later, her A1C was 7.2%. 3 months later, it dropped to 6.9%. She couldn't believe something that seemed so minor could cause such a meaningful shift. So the rule has to be crystal clear. If you're using coffee to improve glucose control, it must be black or only contain a small amount of unsweetened cream or milk. No sugar, no artificial sweeteners. Period. No exceptions. Before we get into the protocol, if you're finding this information useful, I'd really appreciate it if you'd consider subscribing to the channel. My entire mission is to give you glucose control strategies that actually work, without forcing you to stack more and more medications onto your daily routine. And if you know someone dealing with the same struggle, please share this with them. Now let me give you the exact protocol that has helped hundreds of my patients get better blood sugar control than what their medications alone were delivering. I call it the 3 golden windows protocol. These are 3 specific time windows in the day when coffee actively improves insulin sensitivity and lowers blood sugar instead of raising it. Golden window number 1, morning coffee with protein and cinnamon. This window opens 20 to 30 minutes after you wake up, and only after you've eaten 15 to 20 grams of protein. The formula is beautifully simple. 1 cup of black coffee, 150 to 200 milliliters, plus half a teaspoon of cinnamon, taken 20 to 30 minutes after eating a protein-rich breakfast. Why does this work so well? The protein provides an amino acid called leucine, which activates cellular pathways that increase how responsive your cells are to insulin. The cinnamon contains natural compounds that mimic insulin's effects and help glucose move from your bloodstream into your cells more efficiently. The timing allows your cortisol awakening response to settle before caffeine hits your system. Research shows this exact combination can reduce post-meal blood sugar spikes by up to 29%. You're not just drinking coffee, you're creating a metabolic advantage that lasts for hours. Golden window number 2, pre-meal coffee. This second window appears 20 to 30 minutes before lunch or dinner. Think of this as a strategic weapon against post-meal glucose spikes. Drink 1 cup of plain black coffee 20 to 30 minutes before you sit down to eat. The chlorogenic acid in coffee slows the absorption of carbohydrates in your intestines. Picture it like a traffic cop, preventing glucose from flooding into your bloodstream all at once in a massive surge. A study published in a diabetes-focused medical journal found this simple strategy lowers post-meal glucose by an average of 35 milliliters per deciliter. Your insulin works 35% more efficiently without you doing anything else. Golden window number 3, post-exercise coffee. This third window opens 15 to 30 minutes after physical activity. If you walk, exercise, or do any kind of movement, this is your secret weapon for glucose control. After exercise, your muscles are starving for fuel. They're in a highly insulin-sensitive state, ready to pull glucose from your blood. Coffee during this window strengthens that effect. It helps move glucose from your bloodstream directly into muscle cells for storage, and that benefit can last up to 48 hours after a single cup. 1 cup of black coffee within 30 minutes, after a 30-minute walk can dramatically increase glucose uptake. Take a second and write your fasting blood sugar number in the comments. I'm genuinely curious where everyone is starting on this journey. Now let's answer the question everyone always asks: how much coffee can I safely drink? For decades, we've all heard the same one-size-fits-all advice: no more than 2 cups per day. But that recommendation is basically meaningless. Your body is different. Your tolerance depends on your weight, your activity level, and your metabolic condition. Let me show you the personalized formula I use with my patients to find their optimal amount. Take your body weight in kilograms and divide it by 30. For example, if you weigh 70 kilos, the calculation is 70 divided by 30, which equals 2.3. That means your safe limit is roughly 2 to 3 small cups, each about 150 milliliters per day. That's your safe range for using the 3 golden windows protocol without overloading your system with too much caffeine. But what if you exercise regularly? If you brisk walk, cycle, or do yard work for an hour, your body burns through caffeine faster. You can add half a cup for every hour of moderate activity. How do you know if you're drinking the right amount? Your body will tell you clearly if you listen. Good signs include steady energy, calm alertness without jitters, strong mental focus, and no shaking or trembling. Warning signs include anxiety, heart palpitations, or intense hunger about 2 hours after coffee. Those symptoms mean you're either drinking too much or drinking it at the wrong time. Here's a simple trick to make measuring effortless. Buy a measuring cup that holds 150 to 200 milliliters and use only that for your coffee. This prevents accidental overdrinking, and this matters even more after age 60 because your liver processes caffeine more slowly as you get older. The effect on blood sugar becomes stronger year after year. Forget generic rules made for the masses. Your body is unique. Your dose should be personalized too. Now that you understand the protocol, you also need to know about 3 silent saboteurs that can destroy your results. I see these constantly in my practice. Saboteur number 1, artificial sweeteners. I mentioned this earlier, but it needs stronger emphasis because the danger is so serious. Aspartame and sucralose are metabolic poison for people managing glucose disorders. They don't spike blood sugar in an obvious immediate way, but they steadily increase insulin resistance over months and years. They destroy beneficial gut bacteria. They confuse pancreatic signaling. If you're using artificial sweeteners right now, you're actively canceling out everything else you're doing correctly. Remove them completely and immediately. Saboteur number 2, low-quality decaf coffee. If you drink decaffeinated coffee, you need to be extremely careful about what kind. Coffee decaffeinated with chemical solvents loses most of its chlorogenic acid and magnesium, the exact compounds that help your metabolism. Even worse, it can leave behind chemical residues that burden your liver. If you drink decaf, make sure it's processed using the Swiss water method. That's the only decaf process that preserves beneficial compounds while removing caffeine. Saboteur number 3, coffee paired with pastries or refined carbs. Drinking coffee with a croissant, cookie, or pastry is a metabolic catastrophe. The refined starch and sugar create a massive glucose spike that wipes out any protective benefit coffee might have provided. For your first month on this protocol, give your body a full break from all 3 saboteurs. Let your system heal and reset. Remember, drinking coffee for glucose control isn't just about coffee. It's about respecting your metabolism and working with your body's natural rhythm. Let me share documented results from patients who followed this exactly. These aren't rare genetic outliers. These are ordinary people who simply changed when and how they drank coffee. Thomas, age 69. Thomas came to me with an A1C of 8.4%. His fasting glucose averaged between 190 and 210 every morning. He had been taking metformin and glyburide for 5 years. His doctor was already talking seriously about starting insulin. Thomas was terrified of needles and desperate for another option. After following the 3 golden windows protocol for 8 weeks, his A1C dropped to 7.1%. His fasting glucose now averages between 130 and 145. His doctor was so impressed that he actually reduced one of Thomas's diabetes medications. Thomas couldn't understand how something as simple as coffee timing could make such a huge impact. Patricia, age 72. Patricia had been drinking coffee with 3 packets of artificial sweetener in every cup, 3 times a day for over 20 years. She was convinced she was doing the right thing by avoiding real sugar. Her A1C stayed stuck at 7.9%, even though she had excellent diet control everywhere else. She tracked every carb, walked daily, and took her medication perfectly. Nothing moved that number. When I explained how artificial sweeteners destroy gut bacteria and raise insulin resistance, she was skeptical at first. How could something with 0 calories affect blood sugar? But she trusted me enough to try it. She eliminated all sweeteners and followed the timing protocol strictly. Just black coffee or coffee with a tiny splash of unsweetened cream. 1 month later, her A1C was 7.2%. 3 months later, it was 6.9%. She also lost 12 pounds without intentionally trying, something she hadn't been able to do in years. She told me the hardest part was the first week, adjusting her taste buds to unsweetened coffee. But after that, she actually started tasting the coffee itself and enjoying it more than she ever did with sweeteners. James, age 74. James was the classic example of someone doing everything wrong without realizing he was sabotaging himself. He drank coffee on a completely empty stomach every morning, right after waking, in a huge mug. Then he'd drink another cup at 5 p.m. while watching the evening news. His fasting glucose was consistently between 170 and 190. His post-meal numbers would spike to 250 or higher. He was on maximum doses of 2 diabetes medications and moving fast toward insulin dependence. We completely changed his timing. Protein first thing in the morning, wait 20 minutes, then coffee with cinnamon, pre-meal coffee before lunch, and absolutely no coffee after 2 p.m. Within 2 weeks, his fasting glucose dropped into the 140s. Within 2 months, he was averaging 120 to 130 in the morning. His post-meal spikes rarely went above 180. His doctor was able to reduce one of his medications significantly. James said the hardest part was giving up that 5 coffee ritual he'd had for decades. But the results were undeniable. These results aren't magic. They're not genetic luck or coincidence. They're the predictable result of working with your circadian biology instead of fighting it every day. Let me zoom out and give you the full picture. Coffee timing is powerful, but it works best as part of a complete strategy. Think of diabetes management like a table with 3 legs. Remove one leg and the entire table collapses. Leg 1. Smart coffee timing. Chlorogenic acid and caffeine used at the right times improve insulin sensitivity, slow glucose absorption, and increase glucose uptake into muscles. Leg 2. Proper nutrition. You need 1.2 to 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight daily, plus 30 grams of fiber. These stabilize blood sugar and prevent spikes all day. Leg 3. Consistent movement. 30 to 45 minutes of brisk walking, 3 to 5 times per week. Movement makes your muscles hungry for glucose, pulling it out of your blood and into muscle cells for storage. And here's a secret weapon worth knowing. Berberine. 500 milligallons taken with your morning coffee. Studies show it can be as effective as metformin for glucose control. And combined with coffee, it improves glucose regulation by another 20 to 25%. If you want to avoid complications and possibly reduce medication dependence, you need all 3 legs strong. Smart coffee timing, proper nutrition, and consistent movement working together. Your body isn't a simple machine that behaves the same at every hour. It's controlled by circadian rhythms, internal clocks that decide when hormones release, when genes activate, and when metabolism speeds up or slows down. Your insulin sensitivity follows these rhythms exactly. It peaks between 6 a.m. and noon, when your cells accept glucose easily. As the day goes on, sensitivity gradually declines. By evening, your cells become more resistant, requiring more insulin to get the same glucose-lowering effect. That's why eating the same meal at night causes a bigger spike than eating that exact meal in the morning. Coffee on an empty stomach disrupts your cortisol awakening response, flooding your system with glucose when it should be stabilizing. Coffee after 2 p.m. keeps cortisol high into the evening, stopping your body from entering nighttime repair mode. Your already weaker nighttime insulin sensitivity gets even worse. Your liver produces glucose all night. But when coffee timing is aligned properly, everything changes. Protein first creates stability. Coffee 20 minutes later boosts morning insulin sensitivity instead of destroying it. Pre-meal coffee blocks glucose surges. Post-exercise coffee captures the muscle window. No coffee after 2 p.m. protects nighttime sensitivity and fasting glucose. You're not fighting biology. You're working with it. Here's exactly what to do starting tomorrow morning. Follow this protocol exactly for 7 days. Morning routine. Wake up. Drink a glass of water immediately. Eat 15 to 20 grams of protein. That can be 2 eggs, 150 grams of Greek yogurt, a protein shake, or 100 grams of cottage cheese. Set a timer for 20 minutes. When the timer goes off, make 1 cup of black coffee, 150 to 200 milliliters. Add half a teaspoon of cinnamon. Sip it slowly over 10 to 15 minutes. Pre-lunch routine. 20 to 30 minutes before lunch, drink 1 cup of black coffee with nothing added. This is your glucose blocker. It lowers your post-lunch spike by about 35 millinolars per deciliter on average. Post-activity routine. If you walk, exercise, garden, or do any activity lasting at least 20 minutes, drink 1 cup of black coffee within 30 minutes after finishing. This captures the window when your muscles are most insulin sensitive. Evening rule, absolutely no coffee after 2 p.m. Not even decaf unless it's Swiss water processed, because low-quality decaf still contains caffeine and has lost most of the beneficial compounds. Your nighttime insulin sensitivity is too important to sabotage. Elimination rule. No sugar, no artificial sweeteners, no honey, and no pastries or cookies with your coffee. If you must add something, use only a small splash of unsweetened cream or milk. Maximum 30 millimoles measurement rule. Check your fasting blood sugar every morning when you wake up. Write it down. Check your post-meal blood sugar 2 hours after lunch during the first week. Keep a simple log of your numbers. Most people see noticeable improvement within 7 to 10 days of following this exactly. Fasting glucose drops by 10 to 20 points on average. Post-meal spikes drop by 20 to 30 points. Your energy becomes stable all day. The afternoon crash disappears, sleep quality improves, and most importantly, your A1C starts dropping when you test it in 8 to 12 weeks. This isn't magic. This isn't a miracle cure making impossible promises. This is simply your body functioning the way it was designed to. And it starts with something as simple as drinking coffee the right way at the right time. Freedom from diabetic complications doesn't always come from expensive medications or miracle supplements promising instant transformation. Sometimes the most powerful solution is also the simplest one sitting right in front of you. And as we've shown today, the key to better blood sugar control might be steaming in your very next cup of coffee. I want to thank you for watching all the way through. If this information helped you or gave you hope, I'd appreciate it if you'd like this video and share it with someone you care about who could benefit from it. And please leave a comment below. Tell me which of these mistakes you've been making or share your fasting blood sugar number right now. I truly want to hear from you and know where you're starting. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love to have you as part of this community. We're all here learning together, taking control of our health together, and supporting each other through the process. I'm Dr. Matthew Brooks, and I'll see you in the next video where we continue taking control of your health.